So I'm just going to show you the beta test that we run with with our client YPULSE, and we can see how these questions are being answered. So, for example, how aware of the brand Apple are Hispanic males aged 16 to 30? And now let's see how this system eventually performs. Okay, and by the way, while I'm waiting for the answer, feel free to already add any questions in the QA system. So here we can see how it answers the question on the SQL database. So it comes up with an answer and like a overview of the data source. We can take a look. This is a beta test, so it's still like this is just for collecting feedback essentially. But we can see how it actually answers the question total weighted respondent count. It really gets into the details of what was happening. And we can also see the SQL query that was being used to generate this result. Maybe let's ask one other question just to get an idea. Something like this. So what are the top 5 brands in the media tech and entertainment industry in 2023, sorry, in North America? And again, the system is now actively generating a SQL query, reaching out to the database, and collecting the data again, and then again feeding this through an LLM and coming up with the answer. So we can see this works actually fairly well. We can see like the brands, we can see the scores that was based on. We can also kind of like go into the SQL query and inspect what it exactly did. So for example, how it defined the time span it was talking about, how it defined the region, if we want to really inspect if something's going wrong, etc., and see what was happening underneath the hood. So now let's maybe dive into the system a little deeper. So this is how it works. Unfortunately, I cannot show you their application, but I can show you the basically very similar application on dummy data. And now we can try to understand how the system is actually set up. So let's dive in here. And actually, sorry, let me start with the database. So this is the material we look at. So you can see it's a Snowflake database. We have a database in here with a bunch of like tables essentially. Let's just take a random look into something. So we have a lot of these tables. We can take a look at the data, just like probably some of you may also have in their companies, in your respective companies, similar data sets that you may want to query against. So this is what it looks like. And now we can build up a similar system. So we can ask questions here. Let me see. I think I've prepped something. So for example, how did sales develop year over year? Let's find out. And we can see how it comes up with like a table again. It aggregates the sales, comes up with some numbers. Again, we can see what the SQL query looks like. We can also want more maybe. See. I don't know. I think I had something like can't find my copied thing. What are the top territories? Orders. Maybe something like this. And we can see it comes up with like this more extended table. Again, like running the SQL query, etc. Here we can now also see how the system is actually set up. So we can see there's also apparently some sources added to it. And this is like the retrieved sources. So let's try to understand how we got to this point and that the system actually works. So for that, we actually dive into the system itself and look under the hood of what is happening. So here we can see, let's take a look. We actually leverage 2 pipelines. So one pipeline is an indexing pipeline, you can see here. And one pipeline is the querying pipeline. Now, why do we have an indexing pipeline? Do we index the Snowflake database? Of course not. That would be probably not very reasonable step to do. What we do index is actually the column descriptions. So when we take a look in the files itself, we can see what the data is that we index. So in here, we can find descriptions of all the different tables that we have. And additionally, we added a lot of metadata. So for example, what are the columns that the system may want to use there or can use there, what the table is called, and then, potentially some other stuff in this file, just a file ID. So we create basically database with all of these table descriptions that we have that the system can leverage at inference time in order to understand like what kind of SQL query it needs to generate. So here we can really see all of the things available. And then when we run the system, and I'm clicking back, sorry, bear with me here into the system itself. What is happening at inference time is then that the system first retrieves the right tables that are informative for the respective query that we're facing. So there's like this typical retrieval process, as you might also have it in some more classic RAG setups. But then it's like based on these, it is generating a SQL query that is then executed against the Snowflake database. And the Snowflake database then obviously answers with like the extract from the databases, which is then again, of course, taken by an LLM, which formulates the whole thing into a fully fledged answer. And this is how the system is actually working under the hood, and which also, quite frankly, we've gotten quite good results from so far. It seems to be very robust. So yeah, this is the system architecture in essence. Now we can also look a little deeper, by the way, if you want to, how the system is exactly set up. So this is currently the YAML configuration. And for those of you who may already be familiar with Haystack, this hopefully looks pretty familiar. So this is like the Haystack description. This is like the prompts that we used, where we also did some testing to actually get to the results right now. So yeah, this is the total system. Actually, yeah, I'm